Hey friends, this here's a guitar that has never had its strings changed until today. This here is a Yamaha FS800 and I recently just picked it up. So we're gonna string change this thing. Gonna give the truss rod a little tweak, polish this thing up. I'm also gonna give the fretboard some oil. A bit dry. I've been looking forward to getting my hands on one of these. I picked this up off of a woman who purchased this new. I already have some impressions because I've played it a little bit. You know, what I was hoping was going to be a fantastic experience is slightly diminished for me and my particular style of playing with this guitar. And that all really just boils down to the string spacing here at the saddle. But I have to say, so far it's charming me. I want to tweak the truss rod a little bit. The relief is very stark and it needs a little bit of love, so I'm not sure which wrench this is gonna need. And so what I'm gonna do here, while I have the tension on the strings, you know, the standard typical quarter turn is, I know it's pretty high. I'm gonna give it more than a quarter, almost a half there, and that actually changes the relief in the neck. I think also, yeah, it's looking a lot nicer now. That actually made a big difference. That was a lot of turn. And I noticed that there's a lot of saddle here that can come down. So that's a good start with straightening the neck a little bit, because it was, as I mentioned, like there was a lot of relief. I see a tiny bit of relief in there now, but not too much. And I think that if I want to change this now, I will first adjust the nut, the string height at the nut. This first string is a lot lower than the rest, so we're going to leave that as is and get these strings off. And these strings look like they really have not been changed. They still have this like factory way of winding the strings, the 6th and the 5th string, and they're wound there's one wound above the hole in the post, and there's one wound below, one wind below, one wind above. I'm not sure how to say it, but you can see it's like a factory. It's installed at the factory. So, oh my word, there's an ice cream truck going by my house. It's November 3rd. Alright, regular old plastic pins. Off the old strings go to the big old bag of strings. So next up, we need to give this thing a little bit of a polish, a little bit of a clean. You can see how dusty the headstock is. Not sure you can see that, how dusty it is, but we're going to give that another dose here. I think this thing could use a little extra. The grain on the back and sides of this guitar is actually really beautiful, quite stunning. And the neck on this guitar is a matte finish as opposed to the body. But the back, look at the back, it's so sweet. Look at that. Really nice. And the sides, hard to show, but they're very nice. Alright, I have some flaxseed oil, or boiled linseed, that I'm gonna put on this fretboard lightly. Just using a paper towel for it. That's one of the first things I noticed, was how dry the fretboard looked to me. Fretboard was dry, dusty, and I think this metal could use a nice cleaning. Definitely coming off on the paper towel here. So I believe the bridge and the fretboard are walnut on this guitar. Alright, that looks a lot better to me now. It's definitely, I think it's appreciating a little bit of oil on there. I'm appreciating it. It definitely looks a lot nicer to me now. The thing was looking dry. We're clean. We are moisturized. And our truss rod is tweaked. There's one little piece here that I'm happy to share with y'all, and I think I'll do this here on the string change video. If you're sticking with me so far already, we can enjoy this moment together here, because I noticed when I was cleaning off a little piece of paint, which I think is paint, my finger put a divot in the pickguard, and I said, wait, what's going on there? And it's not a divot in the pickguard. The plastic covering is still on the pickguard. So we can peel the plastic covering off of the pickguard right now. So this is kind of what makes this even more of a new guitar day. Ready for this? Here we go. Pickguard plastic coming off. Let's take it off. Yes, that's new guitar day right there. New used guitar day. Wonderful. Whoa, yes. That was awesome. Alright, now, yeah, and that pickguard looks quite nice actually. We're going to have to adjust the lighting in this video. Alright, let's get some lighting and change these strings. Alright, hopefully that works well. D'Addario Lights, Phosphor Bronze, EJ16s. Now that we are ready for the strings, I don't know if you all caught the new Beatles song recently released yesterday or day before for me here. I caught a little bit of it. I want to go back and listen to it again. My first impressions for the little snippet that I did here was that I wasn't sure about it. I wasn't sure. I don't know that much about it yet. I believe that Paul and Ringo put live tracks to it. George is AI. Maybe you know more than I do at the moment. I'm sure there's a lot of AI involved there, but I need some time to process a little further. And I'm not sure, did John write the song for the Beatles, or was he like over it already and just writing his solo stuff, or Plastic Ono Band? So I need to go revisit that and sit down with it and give it a good think and give it a good listen. So have you heard it? Did you like it? What do you think? So as I had mentioned at the beginning, the kind of fatal flaw for this particular guitar so far is the string spacing at the saddle. And I'll break out a couple other guitars. I have two other guitars on either side of me with different string spacings. And I'm going to give them a measurement. But this one's very, very skinny. And I notice it right away, as naturally I want to go fingerstyle on the guitar. And it just jumps right out at me that it's tiny, tiny, tiny. I did check what Yamaha says about these guitars, and their FG series has what they call 11 millimeters in between the strings, and this FS series has 10 millimeters between the strings. And it was kind of a bummer. I had been looking forward to getting a hold of this series of guitars. Particularly, I thought I'd pair up my FG850, which is over here, with an FS850. I thought that would be really sweet. And I might be out of the game, out of the search for an FS850 for that sheer factor, unless they put into production an FS850 or an FS850 with a not only a wider, it doesn't have to be a wider nut, just wider string spacing at the saddle, because I can get along with 1 inch and 11/16, which is what this guitar is at the nut. And I think if I put the measurement to this and then put it to the FG, and I brought the Blues 51 out here as well, because I think that there's going to be 3 different measurements here at the saddle. I believe the Blues 51, the Alvarez Blues 51, is extra wide because it is particularly built for fingerstyle. So I'm interested to do that. I brought my measuring tape over. And yes, here we are, putting on new strings. If you haven't watched one of my string change videos before, or my other videos, yes, I always leave the ends of the strings coiled up. Why might I do that? I will say, probably end up saying 1,000,000 times in my lifetime, because at some point years ago I used to cut my strings, and at one point I reached over to adjust the headstock or do something over by the headstock, and I stabbed my finger up underneath the fingernail with one of those cut end strings. And then a couple of weeks later I did it a second time. And it was at that point I decided I was going to stop cutting my strings at the end. So my peg heads, they look a little more unruly than most peg heads look. And that is just fine with me. I also have to do this extra labor here and coil these strings up, uncoil them when I'm changing strings as well. So, but I don't mind the labor at all. Just one of those things I do. Before I do a little sound sample here, I want to get a measurement. So let's see, check this out. On this Yamaha FS800, we have string spacing at the saddle of basically 1 inch and like 15/16. Here we got the Yamaha FG850, such a beauty. 1 inch and 11/16 nut, and then here at the saddle, a little less than 2 3/16. So that's a big difference right there. And then we have the Alvarez Blues 51. Dun, da, da, da. And this string spacing at the saddle is 2 1/4. I knew it. 2 1/4 on the Blues 51. Wow, big difference there. That is a big difference. It's almost like these strings just go straight up the neck. No, not much of a difference between the distance here and the distance, the width here and the width here. Which is kind of interesting. It's almost straight. I mean, right away, the tone of this guitar is not lacking much at all. If anything. It's actually now with these new strings, like, this has a killer tone. It doesn't come across as a parlor guitar, but what'll be interesting to me actually as well is, check this out. This Blues 51 is so much smaller, is so much thinner, and it has that parlor sound, that compressed sound. I didn't tune it up, and it's a half step down. I tuned the 800 up to standard. But this Blues 51, it has that boxiness. That compressed sound. Whereas this, oh, and that's what I was going to do. Whereas the 800 doesn't have that compressed sound, but check this out. The width 14 and 7/8 at the lower bout, and then here on the 800 the same exact. This is the same exact. This is the exact width of the Blues 51. But this has so much more, it's so much closer to a dreadnought. This guitar, for me, would be killer guitar with different string spacing. Yamaha, please make this guitar with a wider string spacing at this price point. Let's see how it sounds, the old strings and the new strings. Thing has a great tone, I have to say. Yamaha. There's a lot to like about this guitar, that's for sure. I'm gonna do another video on this guitar in the upcoming days. Nice job, Yamaha. If only the specs were a little bit different, this might be a keeper. Would love to see an FS850 with wider string spacing. Come on, Yamaha. So nice. Hey, thanks so much for tuning in. You take good care.